911, what's your emergency? A breath, then click. It started with silence. A breath. And then nothing. But what investigators would find behind that silence was a story more twisted than anyone imagined. He was a respected professor. A man who gave lectures on justice and believed in second chances. She was someone he barely knew. They had just met. Within hours of that message, Todd Morgan would be lying face down in his own home, shot 7 times. Was it a robbery? A setup? Or something far more personal? As detectives unraveled the case, questions piled up. Why was the door unlocked? Why did Todd let her in? And what made her pull the trigger again and again? Was Todd Morgan just another victim of random violence? Or had he unknowingly stepped into a trap carefully laid out from the very beginning? One night. One meeting. 7 bullets. But the answers? They'd raise more questions than ever before. What you're about to hear may change the way you think about trust, strangers, and the cost of letting someone in. Before the headlines, before the horror, Todd Morgan was just a boy from Akron, Ohio. Raised by a single mother, he learned early that life rarely gave second chances, so he created his own. Todd was quiet but sharp. Teachers described him as the kind of student you don't forget, curious, respectful, hungry to understand the world. That hunger took him all the way to Cleveland State University. As a professor, Todd wasn't flashy, but he was consistent, fair. He asked hard questions, the kind that stayed with students long after class. Those who knew Todd say he was brilliant but private, a man who chose silence over spectacle. Some said he was lonely, others said he liked it that way. One colleague said, Todd didn't just teach law, he lived it. Fairness mattered to him. Another recalled, he once stayed an hour after class to help me prep for court. Didn't have to, but he did. But outside the classroom, few really knew what Todd did when the doors closed. Friends say Todd was old-fashioned, but he had started using dating apps. He told a colleague it felt like shopping for someone to trust. There were a few dates, mostly quiet dinners. But nothing serious, until Tariana. He had no enemies, no known threats, just a quiet life, until one night he opened the door and let in someone who would change everything. Before she stepped into Todd Morgan's apartment, Tariana Pascal had lived many lives, daughter, dreamer, survivor. But who was she really? And what brought her to his door that night? Tariana was born into instability. Some sources say her childhood was marked by constant movement, school to school, house to house. The kind of life where survival mattered more than grades. She grew up in the shadows of Cleveland's forgotten neighborhoods, places with more liquor stores than libraries, where dreams were currency and trust could be dangerous. Sources suggest Tariana's home life was fractured. One caregiver described her as quiet but watchful. She had siblings, some say she protected them like a second mother. Others say she protected herself by disappearing into her own world. Her mother's presence came in and out like seasons. Her father? A ghost. She was a child raised by unpredictability. By her teens, Tariana was mastering masks. Sweet at school, sharp at home, distant to most, yet capable of pulling you in with a glance. One teacher remembered, she had a way of smiling that made you think she'd just gotten away with something. She didn't ask for help. She didn't break the rules loudly. She just bent them quietly when no one was looking. In her late teens and early 20s, Tariana's name showed up in scattered reports. Not enough to raise alarm bells, but just enough to suggest something bubbling beneath the surface. Petty disputes, poor decisions, and a few court-mandated appearances. The records don't scream violence, but they whisper unpredictability, moments where her charm collided with chaos. Friends from childhood described her as magnetic, someone who could talk her way out of anything. One remembered, she was like a cat, always landing on her feet, even when you thought she was cornered. But another said, you never really knew what Tariana was thinking. She could laugh with you and lie to you in the same sentence. Was it manipulation, or survival? By her mid-20s, Tariana had mastered modern dating. Apps were a game. Profiles polished like resumes. She knew what people wanted to hear, and more importantly, how to become what they were looking for. Matches came quickly, but they didn't last. Some dates ended awkwardly. Others ended quietly, phones blocked, accounts deleted. She was always on to the next. No. Todd. On the surface, she was just another woman looking for connection. But something about this meeting felt different. For once, she didn't disappear right away. And by the time Todd realized what kind of story he was in, it was already too late. It started with a swipe, a second's motion, a flick of the finger, and suddenly two very different lives were aligned by pixels and proximity. One was looking for connection. The other? Maybe something else. It was late. Most people were asleep. But Todd wasn't. His digital activity showed him active on the app around 12:17 a.m. Tariana's account, too, came alive shortly after. He read her bio twice. No last name. Just T. Her photos were filtered but inviting. Todd clicked like. Seconds later, she matched him back. The first message? "Hey, you look familiar." A common opener, vague but effective. Todd replied, "Maybe in another life." What followed was a dance of short replies and long pauses. She responded when she wanted. And when she didn't, silence. Their conversation was light, laced with compliments. But it was uneven. One was leaning in. The other? Maybe weighing options. Just hours after matching, the tone shifted. She asked, "Are you alone tonight?" Todd responded with a joke, then an invitation. It didn't take much. He sent his address. She sent a thumbs up. No call. No video chat. Just digital consent to step into each other's lives, in person and unfiltered. What Todd didn't know was what Tariana didn't say. The silence between their texts might have spoken louder than the words themselves. Todd had dated before. Colleagues described him as hopeful but guarded. He wasn't naive, but he was open. Maybe too open. He wasn't expecting love. Maybe just a spark. A story. Someone to talk to. Someone to listen. But that night, whether he admitted it or not, Todd was vulnerable. What was Tariana thinking? No journal. No confession. Just a digital trail. No close friend later said, she was excited. No message said, I'm nervous. Was this just another visit for her, transactional, routine? Or was it something more calculated? The truth is, no one knows exactly why she went. But what happened after she arrived would be anything but ordinary. By 2:17 a.m. she was inside. By 2:38 a.m., the neighbors would report hearing a noise, something between a crash and a cry. By 2:41 a.m., a 911 call would hang up after 2 seconds. No words. Just breath. And by dawn, a city would wake up to a headline it couldn't make sense of. 2 digital strangers. 1 invitation. 1 apartment. No cameras. No witnesses. Just a quiet night, until everything changed. April 19th started as an ordinary day for Todd Morgan. But by nightfall, it would become a night no one could forget. After Tariana arrived, the two shared a quiet, dimly lit apartment, with the soft clink of wine glasses and the faint hum of late-night radio. Neighbors would later describe hearing faint laughter, the kind that masks unease. Their conversation was reportedly light at first, stories exchanged between 2 strangers bound by a digital thread. But beneath the surface something was off. Perhaps it was the way the wine glass trembled in her hand, or how Todd's smile faded after each sip. No one could have predicted how quickly the atmosphere would shift. According to police reports, tensions escalated quickly. What began as a quiet evening turned violent in a matter of minutes. 7 shots were fired. 7 lives taken, not just in the bullets but in shattered trust and broken promises. Why? The answer remains unclear. But the trail of evidence speaks volumes. At 2:41 a.m., a chilling 911 call was placed, but it lasted only 2 seconds before hanging up. Neighbors later reported hearing a loud crash, followed by eerie silence. One witness described a shadow running away moments before the police arrived. Officers forced entry minutes later. Inside they found Todd Morgan, lifeless, surrounded by forensic clues that would puzzle investigators. The scene told a story of sudden violence, struggle, and unanswered questions. Every detail, from the placement of the shell casings to the blood spatter, would become critical pieces in unraveling the truth. This was just the beginning. What the police would uncover in the hours and days following would reveal not just a crime, but the fractures in 2 very different lives. But one question lingered: who was really responsible? And what was the true motive behind this deadly encounter? As dawn broke over the quiet neighborhood, forensic teams returned to the apartment, meticulously documenting every detail left behind. In the aftermath of violence, it was the evidence that would speak loudest: silent witnesses to a deadly night. 7 shell casings lay scattered across the floor, each telling a part of the story. Ballistics experts would confirm the bullets came from a single weapon, fired in rapid succession. But the positioning of the casings hinted at a chaotic struggle. Blood splatter patterns and footprints painted a grim picture of the confrontation. Forensic analysts mapped the movement of both victim and perpetrator, signs of a desperate fight for survival. Each stain was a clue, each step a fragment of a final story. Beyond the physical, the investigation turned digital, uncovering a trail left in the virtual world. Tariana's phone, recovered at the scene, revealed her app activity and GPS data pinpointing her movements before and after the fatal night. Messages, timestamps, and location pings began to sketch a timeline, but also raised new questions. Investigators also collected footage from neighbors' security cameras, a silent witness to the movements outside the apartment. ATM surveillance showed Tariana's transactions, confirming her whereabouts in the crucial hours before and after. Each frame added pieces to the puzzle, narrowing the window of opportunity. Piece by piece, the evidence began to form a clearer picture, but with every revelation came more questions. Was this a premeditated act? Or a spontaneous descent into violence? And could the evidence tell who fired the fatal shots? What the forensic evidence revealed would shock the investigators and the public alike, but the full truth still waited to come to light. Hours after piecing together the digital and physical evidence, police zeroed in on Tariana Pascal. Her movements were tracked through GPS, witness statements, and surveillance footage, a net tightening with every step. Shortly before dawn, officers moved in to make the arrest. During the arrest, Tariana appeared unusually calm, her expression unreadable. Yet behind the stoic mask, investigators sensed contradictions, evasive answers, subtle shifts in tone, and moments of elusive silence. This duality would define much of the interrogation to come. In the hours-long interview, Tariana maintained her innocence, weaving a narrative filled with denials, half-truths, and carefully chosen words. She claimed self-defense, confusion, or even that she was not present at the time of the shooting. Detectives pressed for details, searching for inconsistencies and signs of deception. As news of the arrest spread, the story captivated local and national media alike. Social media buzzed with speculation and divided opinions, from shock to disbelief. Friends, family, and community members struggled to reconcile the reality with the headlines. The arrest was just the beginning, a prelude to a courtroom battle that would unearth painful truths, hidden motives, and shocking twists. What secrets would the interrogation truly reveal? And how would justice be served? As the investigation unfolded, whispers emerged. Tariana wasn't new to the dating app world. Some insiders suggested a troubling pattern. Other men who met her through these platforms had also faced mysterious troubles. Was Todd Morgan an isolated victim, or part of a darker cycle? Questions also surfaced about whether Tariana acted alone. Friends and neighbors hinted at mysterious visitors, whispered conversations, and possible pressures from outside forces. Could someone else have played a role behind the scenes? A court-ordered psychological evaluation revealed deeper layers. Experts weighed in on Tariana's mental state. Was she driven by impulsivity, a skillful manipulator, or pushed to the edge by desperation? The line between victim and perpetrator blurred in these assessments. New revelations raised a haunting question. Did Todd sense something was wrong before it was too late? Friends recalled moments of hesitation, subtle red flags in Tariana's behavior that he might have overlooked. A fatal misjudgment in a world where trust is both currency and risk. With the narrative twisting unexpectedly, the trial would soon confront these chilling possibilities, forcing all involved to face uncomfortable truths. After intense deliberation and mounting evidence, Tariana Pascal entered a plea of guilty. Her admission stunned many, a dramatic turn that ended the trial but opened new questions about remorse and accountability. The judge's words resonated with weight, acknowledging the pain inflicted, the loss suffered, and the need for justice. A sentence was pronounced that aimed to balance punishment with the hope of prevention. In heartfelt statements, Todd Morgan's family shared their grief, their struggle to comprehend the tragedy, and their longing for healing. Similarly, Tariana's family grappled with disbelief and sorrow over the path their loved one had taken. The tragedy rippled through Cleveland State University, leaving a community shaken and searching for answers. Campus safety measures were reassessed. Counseling services expanded as students and faculty mourned a man many admired. The shadow of that night would linger, a stark reminder of vulnerability in a world built on trust. The courtroom's reckoning brought closure to one chapter, but the echoes of loss and lessons learned would endure. In the weeks and months after the tragedy, the Cleveland State University community came together to honor Todd Morgan's life. Memorial services were held on campus, where students, colleagues, and friends shared stories of a respected professor who had touched many lives. Vigils flickered with candlelight, flowers bloomed at quiet corners, and walls filled with handwritten notes of remembrance. Colleagues recalled Todd's dedication to his students and his quiet kindness. Family members spoke of the man behind the profession, a thoughtful son, brother, and friend. Their reflections painted a fuller picture of a life that, though tragically cut short, left a lasting imprint. Todd's story became a cautionary tale, shining a light on the hidden risks of online dating. Experts urged users to exercise caution, trust instincts, and share plans with loved ones when meeting strangers. Technology offers connection, but it also demands vigilance. Victim advocates used the case to call for stronger protections and greater awareness around online interactions. Law enforcement reaffirmed their commitment to community safety and swift justice for victims. Together, they sought to transform tragedy into prevention. Though Todd's life ended too soon, his legacy lives on, a reminder to cherish safety, community, and vigilance in the digital age. As we look back on that tragic night, we are left to wonder, could this have been prevented? Were there signs missed, warnings unheeded, or conversations left unspoken? The answers are as complex as the human lives intertwined in this story. Tariana Pascal's true motives remain partially obscured, a tangled web of desperation, survival, and perhaps something darker. Was this a moment of impulsive violence or a calculated act born from a troubled past? The full truth may never be known, but it challenges us to look beyond black and white answers. In an age where digital connection can bridge miles and seconds, the human need for trust and companionship remains unchanged. But with connection comes vulnerability, a double-edged sword we must navigate with care. Todd Morgan's story is a stark reminder that behind every profile is a real person, with hopes, fears, and sometimes hidden dangers. May we all move forward with empathy, caution, and an unwavering commitment to safety. Thank you for joining us in exploring this complex and tragic story. If you or someone you know uses dating apps, stay vigilant, trust your instincts, and always prioritize safety. Share this story to raise awareness, comment with your thoughts, and subscribe for more in-depth true crime documentaries. Together we can turn tragedy into understanding and prevention.